Hi, beautiful soul. Welcome to a new video. It's also actually a new series that I want to start on my channel because I feel the call to do that, and it's also connected to my current process of remembering my purpose. And while I will talk about stop interrupting your light, I'll also take you with me on my walk, on my morning walk in this beautiful, beautiful forest here in Italy. Today I will cross borders, I will go to Slovenia, but before I do that, I first want to enjoy one more hike here in the forests and the mountains of Italy. And what I'm going to share is something personal, but also something that I've been navigating through for the last couple of years, and also helping other people to apply this remembrance of light on their lives. Because I think 5 years ago now, almost 6, I started to develop interest in spirituality because I stumbled across a podcast and I started listening to it, and it really resonated with me. And so slowly I started to meet people that were also focused on spirituality, on consciousness. And there was one thing, and it can also be related to before my interest in spirituality and me going to certain therapists while I was a student. When I met other people in spiritual communities, beautiful people, they started talking about healing and shadow work. And that actually never resonated with me. And I can bring it back to when I was a student and I went to, I think, 2 or 3 therapists. Back then I was struggling with certain things. I don't even remember what I was struggling with. Back then I was in my first serious long-term relationship with someone that I met during studying journalism. And I changed therapists multiple times because most of them were constantly focused on all the things that happened in my past, and that's the reason why I'm feeling this way right now. It all came to everything that went wrong and understanding why and how sorry they felt for me, and I didn't like that at all. I actually hated that. And the last therapist that I had was already a bit more spiritual orientated, holistic, and she was more like giving me tools to meditate and to feel. So that was already more my thing, and that actually helped me the most. But if I look back now on the past and my childhood and in my teens, I always, it was not resistance, but when I was in a conversation, for example, with someone that was really in victimhood, and of course, we as sensitive beings, we attract people that feel safe to share their stories with us. But there was always something inside of me when I had these conversations, or it was actually just me listening to other people's stories and worries and emotions. There was always something within me that was like, but why do you make it so hard for yourself? Why do you make it so complicated? Why are you focused on that? Well, you have the free will to focus on the beauty of what you are and the beauty of life. And so this feeling and this thinking happened again when I met these people in the spiritual communities, and they were suddenly talking about healing, shadow work, and it didn't resonate with me at all. I was more focused on other things, on energy, at that point, on astrology, human design, just everything that I loved, because it's gave me deeper purpose and meaning about myself, about life. Of course, I was still in this approach of seeking things outside of myself, to have certain deeper spiritual experiences, to have deeper purpose and meaning, to find it. But it was more focused on outside myself. And although I never resonated with shadow work and healing work, I was actually a lot of the time focused, especially when I was a student, on self-development, on mindfulness as well, but really like trying to improve myself constantly. I think it all started when I had my first long-term relationship. Because we all know when being in a romantic relationship how confronting this can be, how many mirrors you get. So I started to focus on that because I thought I needed to improve myself. And it was just my story back then, and I was okay because I was deeply identifying with Eva, with my thoughts, with my personality. But that's just, that will always be the thing that keeps us in seeing ourselves as a project, that keeps us in needing to fix ourselves and constantly seeing improvements. And you can choose to do that. I mean, we have a free will to create our own story around our self-image. And that's also one of the things we get to experience in this human life. But when I heard about shadow work and healing work for the first time, it was like, wow, what like these words on its own carry such a, for me at least, such a heavy energy with it. So I always was questioning back then, the more I surrounded myself with people who were focused on this, like, but how do you do that? How do you heal yourself? I didn't even know that I was wounded, that I had problems, and yeah, I didn't even know I was broken. Okay, sometimes I feel that I'm broken, but these are just emotions, right? And sometimes I would get so frustrated by it because my ego wanted to know how that I could heal myself, because it thought that it was a certain solution for my suffering. And that was also a solution because when I surrounded myself more and more with people that were talking about this, I was already activated on this twin flame awakening path. So of course I created a new assumption because I surrounded myself with people who were also assuming this, and in combination of consuming a lot of info and content around twin flames that was also focused on that aspect, my assumption was also, okay, so if I heal myself, he will come back to me. He will choose me, and he will heal as well. And then another assumption that arose with it was, okay, so I need to be whole and complete again, because apparently I'm not. It's so beautiful here. I'm getting distracted by the colors, by the green. I'll show you. See the lights. I love this so much. All right, so and then if I can be exactly 14 months ago, I spontaneously, for the first time consciously, experienced this unity consciousness, this frequency of inner union. And I just said consciously because I believe I've had this, if I can look back on this. I think 1 year before that, I also have had moments where I've experienced this before. But I have to be careful, the stones are wet. But back then I didn't know what it was. I just thought I'm feeling very good. Because I ended together with my ex-boyfriend our long-term relationship, and I felt really liberated because we were very different in how we saw society and the world in general. But when then 2 years ago I, for the first time in a conscious way, experienced this again, I realized something so important, which has been the main reason and intention for making videos on YouTube, for helping other people on their awakening path, making courses, offering one-on-one sessions, also making group programs sometimes. But I felt so liberated. I was like, and it's just a fact. My thoughts were like, so I don't have to do nothing. It's just about being and remembering and feeling, of course. And then I'll come back to wholeness and completion. This feeling of fulfillment within, connection with everything. And of course, I already took some stepping stones, if I say this correctly. Some months before that happened, I started to become so done with this self-healing focus, because I started to realize, but I'm already enough, like I'm whole and complete already. Well, I don't think that the whole and complete thing already crossed my mind at that point, but the being enough really was my new assumption, that started to shift things, that helped me to let go certain tools and certain focus, because it drained me. I was so done with it. And maybe you can think, well, that's very easily said, easier said than done. And I get you, of course, but it was really the start for something new, for really coming back to wholeness and the truth and remembrance of self. Because what we do when we are constantly in these assumptions, and that's okay, you know, there's nothing wrong with having these thoughts. I'll explain more details about this, I think, in the next video. But when we believe these thoughts of every time you get triggered by something and your mind or your spiritual ego comes to the surface and says, oh, that must be a wound, I need to heal something new about myself. What you are doing in that moment, in the present moment, because the present moment is crucial on this awakening path, because the present moment is the only real time where you can come back to wholeness and soul and connecting with it, coming into alignment. So every time you get into these stories of the spiritual ego, and the spiritual ego comes with these stories because it in the past just consumed topics and concepts and tools around this. And that's why it arises. That's why it comes to the surface every time you get triggered. What you do at that moment, because you believe it, you'll notice, like your body, at least that's what I always experienced, your body will go in contraction, in stagnation. So you embody the fact that you need to heal. You embody you are not whole and complete. You have a wound. You are broken. And there's a big difference between that and like really letting your small human self and your spiritual ego come up with these stories and these assumptions, accept it, and choosing light, wholeness, unity within anyways. That's the real power of this. And of course there comes embodiment with it. It's very important, otherwise, like I just said, it's easy said, but actually feeling this and remembering this can be more complicated or just more difficult. And embodying this, you can do this on like very small things, and that's what I will focus more in the next video. But the reason that I feel that I want to share this again with you, because I know that I've already talked about this in some other videos of mine, but it's like I feel so much passion for this, to remember people of their wholeness. And the first month, especially the first month, while traveling, living in my van has been more challenging than I expected before I would leave my country. And so now I realize that integrating this remembrance of union within, this wholeness, has been actually very comfortable for me and easy almost. Not always, because we are still human. We still have our triggers sometimes. Our human self, that's actually our human self operating, coming to the surface. That's a response to something outside of itself in the 3D field of reality. But now I realize that my spiritual ego started to link this shift in frequency, this state of inner union and bliss and neutrality and connection and wholeness, to living in my apartment, because that's where I activated. That's where I started to embody this. So every time I was there, especially when I was alone, I could just shift into it very easily. So yeah, that's what the ego does. And when I left my country, it already started a bit when I left my apartment, and I had to live with my parents here and there, because they are divorced. So sometimes with my mom, and then with my dad, and then sometimes I would visit and stay with my counterparts. But especially now, because for my ego, for my nervous system, I am living a completely different lifestyle. It's not like in all aspects different, but I live in a car. I'm outside most of the times. I have I have less material objects. It's just different. And so the ego started to feel unsafe, and my nervous system as well. It both needed to adapt to this new way of living. And the tricky part about this frequency of inner union and embodying it. I've seen this with a lot of people that I've worked with as well, and it's something that I also sometimes still get trapped by, is that the spiritual ego sees this as something new to achieve, to chase after, because this feeling of union is like the best feeling ever. You want it, the ego just wants to stay in this frequency constantly because it feels so freaking good. But the moment we start to chase this, just a second, we are back in separation consciousness. We are not acknowledging that we are not in union already. So it dissolves, it stays away. So it's really about also letting go of needing to achieve that, of the desire of being in this frequency and fully accepting your human self as well. And that's one of the most powerful tools to me since I awakened into unity, is acknowledging, seeing your small human self, your small individual human self, and its fears, its belief in separation, its belief in shadows, its doubts, and that it will always be there. Like, it will always come back to the surface sometimes. That's why we get triggered. And see this, accept this, and just like I said, choosing the light anyways. Not trying to fix this human self, not trying to heal your triggers, your so-called wounds, which is just a label, a word that we put on an experience that we have because of a trigger, because of certain emotions. But in the essence, we've always been light and whole and love, unconditional love. And now, since I think 2 weeks or something, I'm really starting to surrender again. I'm applying, it's not really applying, it's just letting go. It's fully accepting. And that's where I started to come back to union within again. And that also helps for the ego to feel safe again and to let go of this, because it's co-creation with your ego and your small human self as well, of the self-healing focus, of the self-development focus, because through this, light is constantly holding you, guiding you, loving you, but we keep on interrupting it when we believe, when we identify with these assumptions in the mind of the ego, of the human self, of the spiritual ego. The birds are confirming. And that's the beauty about this human experience, because we would get bored, maybe, I don't know, it's just what I think, what my mind thinks. The lights, wow. When we would be able to constantly stay in these higher frequencies, we are here to remember, we are here to forget and then remember again and then forget again. It's just the experience, it's the dance between forgetting and remembering. And that's so beautiful, because I'm remembering it again now, after almost 2 months. And it feels like a new upgrade for my mind. In the essence, it's just the same. There's nothing changed really about myself, about what I truly am. But I feel this passion again to help others as well come back to remembrance of their lights, of their essence. So I'm currently creating a new container. I can call it a container, a group program actually, for August. And this container is such a beautiful bridge for me to my deeper purpose, which is called Movement of Remembrance. Maybe you have been following me on Substack, or you are subscribed to my emails, or you are following me on Instagram as well. It's there that I share more about this journey of reclaiming, remembering, movement of remembrance. But what will happen if you drop all these complicated tools of the spiritual communities, for example, or the self-development and the psychology worlds, especially when you feel this frequency, you remember it again because it's has always been there, you just forgot. You also remember that life is very easy. We don't need all these complicated, dramatic focus. It's the small self that needs that, because it constantly operates from separation. And it's our belief of separation that wants to fix, that wants to heal, that wants to do consciously shadow work. But it can be easier than that even. And that's really what I'm standing for. I'm so passionate about this, and I will share more details around this in the link of I was almost talking in Instagram language. No, you can find a link in the description of this video. And I will come back soon with a new video around more like embodying or what it is like to embody this truth, this wholeness again, and the power of our mind as well. To inspire you and to introduce you to how I work. And I'm not focused on working on more self-love or doing more self-healing, because I work from the statement, from the acknowledgement that you're already love, you're already whole. And from that place, I help people to apply, to embody, to implement this truth again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story, to my act of love for you guys, because I just wish that every human being could come back to remembrance again.